Hello, everybody. It's me, the Boss Hog, and today I want to talk about, I guess, rediscovering some motivation that I've really been struggling with over the last few months. Going to talk about the reasons why, what my original plan was for the start of the year, and ultimately what I'm going to be doing to rediscover that motivation that I think will help make me a better person and ultimately lead to that betterment that this channel is at least meant to be. Talking about a little bit more. Let's do it.
All right, so first of all, I want to start with an overview of where I'm at now, and basically, it's a bit of a confession and to come clean, and I guess just to really get it out there. I just want to say that for several months, I've really been struggling for motivation. There's a few big things that I can think of for that. First of all, I've had some challenges at work. One of the main reasons for me joining was this big project where the budget was meant to be available, might no longer be available. So just having to like jump through a lot of hoops, and that's really kind of like demotivated me. I think I was really excited about doing it, and ultimately it's kind of killed off my motivation. I know that might not be the most professional way to react, but it feels like a very human one. There's been some other stuff as well, but I think that's the main call out that I would have. Also, as well, that there's been like a lot of changes really over the last few years that have made me reassess priorities in life. I lost both my parents. I think my mum especially hit me quite hard, and also I was like pulled back to work really before I was ready to. Something it took me a long time to realise hadn't fully moved on. Then I also had a daughter, so much happier news, but still, having a little one definitely makes you reassess your priorities. And to be fair, I mean, it was really the reason why me and my wife we started investing. In our early 30s, late 20s, especially, we really lived sort of paycheck to paycheck, but we were like, London professionals. Living quite well, but not actually building any wealth. Completely that kind of stereotype in a way. Then there's been other things, everything from sort of other people going through their own childcare journey, just talking with friends, going through divorces, losing people as well. Likewise, my little sister is very poorly at the moment as well, so that's a big concern. Even things like just losing my hedgehog. I know it's just a pet, but it's like it was really sad, and it just like all of those things. I just wonder if it made me kind of reassess whether I still want to be doing what I'm doing. Maybe it's the fact I'm 35 now. It does feel like that midlife thing as well, and it's just like made me reassess life in general, I suppose. And lastly, this is something which, again, like until you start investing seriously, it's difficult to explain. But like the wealth building is definitely experiencing some challenges this year for I think two main reasons. First of all, the markets are of course really bad. I was quite badly impacted by the Evraz and Polymetal, big Russian miners that are down like 85%. Had like over 10 grand of my portfolio in that, so more than 10% of the time. So that was really rough. Also, like the tech in general, right? Like, although I've kind of recovered a little bit, that was really weighing on me as well. And I have like a monthly update with my wife, and I went from like being up like 20% last year at the peak to suddenly being down like 15% at the worst, and that feels pretty rubbish, right? Having to have those conversations is not always so nice. Wifey suddenly thinks I've gone from like being brilliant to being a bit rubbish, but we then talk more broadly, but it's still a difficult conversation to have. And also the other thing as well, like my plan this year was to be making income of £1,000 a month from my side hustle, specifically poker. But I was playing poker for the first 6 months of the year, and honestly, I was just mentally exhausted. I was making very little money, nowhere near £1,000 a month, and just some of the variance I was experiencing this year, both for and against, I just wasn't really comfortable with. I think I play a fairly low variance style of poker, and it just was I just found it really exhausting to have these like huge swings, at least by my standards. And yeah, I just wasn't enjoying poker, so I gave myself a bit of a break. To be fair, life got in the way a little bit as well, so again, maybe I wasn't playing as well as I could have been, but likewise, the variance was just all over the place, and it wasn't like I was just getting screwed over. Sometimes I was hitting like one outers on the river, sometimes I was losing with quads against straight flushes and stuff, which are incredibly rare bad beats. But it was happening like an inordinate amount of times, and sometimes several times in a night, which again just gets really tiring. So I mean, my income from poker this year is basically zero. It's something like 200 quid. So yeah, a combination of those three things were kind of weighing on me a little bit, to be honest with you. And yeah, I sort of, it got to the point where I mean, I guess I'm making this video. So as part of this video prep for it, I was having a look at the original things I wanted to do this year. So just as a bit of history here, as a 30-second diversion, I'm not really much for doing planning. It was something that I've tried to introduce into my life to make myself a bit more focused, with mixed success, as we'll see. But I wanted to kind of walk through quickly my original plans for the year. So to invest at least 40k between April and March. The reason why this isn't a calendar year is that basically this is a UK tax year. So 40k basically maximizes our most tax efficient ISA investments. They're called. They're like IRAs if you're American, but ISAs. So this is broadly speaking on track. I do think we're going to fall a couple of weeks behind. But my wife will hopefully get a bonus for Christmas. And to be honest with you, the last couple of months have been quite expensive for my wife and I. We've had like birthdays, trips, holidays, even things like my wife starting a new job and buying a new wardrobe. That was like $1,000. So there have just been like lots of things, pet insurance and also remortgaging as well springs to mind. But broadly speaking, I'm relatively happy with this. And to be honest, I think the fact that more or less every week I do a video, give an update. I even have like a bullet point in there just to say, this is how we're currently doing to plan, and currently we're basically on track with that plan. So that I think I'm happy with. Next up, where I'm less happy. So my plan was to play at least 50 sessions of poker this year. That was meant to be one a week. Currently I'm at 9, and that's because, like I say, I haven't played any poker for the better part of 4 months. Even before then, though, like I say, I wasn't playing as much as I wanted to. It was just difficult to find the time, much harder than I was expecting. And off the back of this, I sort of I'm going to be having a look at where I'm spending my time. Although I think you'll see in a second I have some idea. But yeah, just not playing as much. I mean, to be fair, I specifically made this poker sessions because you don't want to be having like a financial number and feeling like you have to hit it. And that was something else I kind of also realized. So even though I had 50 sessions of poker, which is the idea here is it's like, okay, I'm just going to go and play poker, right? Regardless of how well I do, I'm going to sit in that chair, play some poker, win or lose, that's poker. It's the same with the investments, right? My investment goal is to add 40k, which is something I can control fully, into investments. But actually, the target here isn't really to make 20 grand in a year profit, right? Because that's something I can't control or have limited control over. So, but here with the poker session, because I sort of built it into my wealth building that I would be making £1,000 a month. When I started to fall behind that target, it just made me feel a bit bad, and it was also kind of starting to weigh on me. It was like mentally, every time I felt like I was making progress, I'd get a big slap in the face. And so yeah, so I had some of my biggest swingy sessions, and it wasn't making me feel good. So I think actually I need to focus here on whatever the money is there, and yeah, long term history suggests I should be making about £1,000 a month, but actually that's going to be chunky, right? Because of the nature of poker. So I need to be more mindful here about that. But I do really enjoy poker. I think I am still a good player, even if I haven't been playing at my best, which is probably true. Like I say, a lot of it's been all over the place as well. So I think I just need to reset my poker goal here. But that's what we've currently been doing. Reduce weight. This is where I'm actually a bit really disappointed actually, because I have been making really great progress in the early parts of the year. Like to about May, I was down to 100 kilograms, so I was actually running ahead of schedule. And then where I was just worn out and a bit down and not motivated over summer, put a lot of weight on. I actually went back up to 108 kilograms, which is about as heavy as I've ever been. Back down at the moment to 104, but again, I'd like to get under 100 is the first priority. And then 97 is my kind of medium-term target. By no means do I think I'd be done at 97, right? I wouldn't suddenly be an amazing symbol of health, but actually, the part of the idea with things like investing is you're meant to be thinking about the long term so that you can enjoy it, and if I'm not well, and like I say, my family's health problems, my father-in-law isn't particularly well either, I don't want to get to 55, 60 and be struggling, right? I want to live till I'm 80 and enjoy a couple of decades once I've retired, reasonably well. So I want to start looking after myself, something you sort of take for granted in your 20s, and requires active work basically once you get to your 30s for most people, including me. So I need to start focusing on this a lot more. So yeah, a bit disappointed here on that one. Read at least 5 books. So I do read typically 2 newspapers every day. So I get 3 newspapers in London, so Metro in the morning and Evening Standard in the evening. So I do regularly read 10 newspapers a week, Monday to Friday. But I wanted to broaden my knowledge a little bit, so reading books here. So I'm now on my 4th book. I've read stuff by Peter Thiel. Really enjoyed that actually. I've read a book called 0 to 1. Really a new way of thinking about competition. I actually really enjoy Peter Thiel for being a slightly different thinker. compared to a lot of sort of Silicon Valley investors. Also read Steven Pinker's new book on rationality. That was super interesting as well from a number of perspectives. I'm currently reading a Japanese strategy book from a master samurai, so that's really interesting as well, different thing. I did actually do a lot of strategic studies, very into strategic warfare and things like that, so again, it's not a million miles away, but I'm not particularly knowledgeable about Eastern philosophy or concepts outside, Sun Tzu and etc. So this one I think I'm on target. The only thing here, as I would say, is again I wasn't doing a ton of reading over the summer, so I was running actually ahead of where I wanted to be. But I wanted to read at least 5 books this year and as many as 12. Obviously, I'm going to get nowhere near 12, but and it kind of depends on the length of the book as well. But currently we're on 4, and actually I'm kind of okay here. Just wish I kind of kept up the pace I was at earlier in the year. Maybe I would have got to 8. So attempt to get my titles in chess. So this is my basically my FIDE Master title. So I'm at now an ELO ranking. Hopefully previously have played games and stuff are broadly familiar with ELO ranking, but it's basically just a way of seeing how skilled you are. So I did hit a new high ELO of 2224, so that was pretty good. Currently I'm at about 2170, so again still pretty fine. Just for context, by the way, like Grandmasters start about 2400, but really get going at like 2600. Good players, I would say, start at about 2000 or maybe 1800 even. When I look at this, I'm in like the top sort of about 4% of players. So again, it's a good score, but just the ramp up from here to sort of more senior. So going from like FIDE Master, International Master, Grandmaster is like really just extreme. And all it takes is one mistake, and at this kind of level, you just get ripped apart. So I did beat somebody the other day who was like 2400, but obviously most of the time I'm going to be losing to those players. But what I would say here is like I did have a chess club all lined up, and just out of nowhere I felt like I was ghosted. I don't really know what happened to it. Like I was really excited. I was going to actually be getting like formal training from an international master, so that felt great. And I was really excited about it because I've never actually had any formal chess training, barely read a book, just kind of been playing for a couple of decades now. But for whatever reason, recently I've just I've very quickly climbed through the ELO rankings. I'm not quite sure why, just something seems to have clicked in terms of understanding theory. But I seem to have like capped out around sort of high 2100s normally, and like I say, as high as this. And if I'm honest with you, it's been kind of a bit of a time sink. Like I've struggled to make much progress. And I think if I'm really serious about getting to 2300, where you probably need to be to get like the FM, then I need to like either read more or get formal teaching or something. The way to get these, by the way, you go through something called norms, and you have to basically go and compete over the board, OTB, so in person, and then I think you have to win 50% of your points in 3 qualifying tournaments. So basically you're playing with other similar level players, and you have to win 50% of your points or more within those 3 tournaments to qualify. And the same happens with IM and GM level as well. Because I have not playing as part of the chess club, I just haven't had an opportunity to do that. So broadly, it just doesn't feel like I've made too much progress here, even though I nudged up my new highest elo a little bit. Kind of a little bit, not even disappointed, just I'm not really sure how I feel about it. It just feels like a waste of time, just because I haven't made a ton of progress in my objective, even though I've been spending a lot of time playing. Complete work objectives. So I can't really talk about these in any real level other than what I've already said. So I've just left this fairly cryptic. I would say one of them was really good. The second one of them is kind of progressing okay. And then the third one, which I've already kind of alluded to, just doesn't look like it's going to happen. So that's frustrating for me. Like I wanted to complete all 3 of these more or less this year, although the third one wouldn't have been completed, but would have been lined up to go in early next year. So the fact we're only at 1 of 3 is kind of definitely weighing down on me, because I think historically work has been a real way that I've gained confidence and wealth ultimately. That's kind of made me feel very sure of myself being so good at work. Whereas this year, because I've not been able to achieve as much as I wanted, partly my own failings, partly because of changes in business focus, we haven't really had that. So that's also been its own problem. So yeah. And last but not least, my wife actually tells me that I've rediscovered my cooking mojo, and I have to say, like, I really love food and drink. Like, I considered like doing things like becoming a chef, becoming a sommelier. It's just I'm already so far in my career; it would be such a major pivot and such a change in salary that ultimately is not so feasible. But like I'd actually love to get sort of my either whiskey tasting, sommelier skills, like formal skills, right? Go on training. I love food, love cooking, love eating. I think I have a good understanding of taste. And yeah, I mean, I love making food. I call this quality cooking basically. I mean, it's not something where you just like chuck, veg in the oven and get chicken out of a box in the freezer. I mean, like actually making, like a ramen from scratch or a curry from scratch or paella or something like that. So actually, this has gone really well. I did tons of cooking over both Christmas or the New Year and Easter. As well as even some over summer when I was feeling a bit demotivated in other places, cooking's my kind of creative outlet. So here I'm actually relatively happy. I did want to get as high as 50, again just doing one a week. Haven't quite kept up with that, but I'm quite happy with being at 26. And this is something where actually my daughter, she's almost 3 now, and like she really likes helping in the kitchen. So it's something like last Saturday we went to Borough Market. I love Borough Market, by the way, in London Bridge in London, and I just like the food there is just such quality and so varied, and made like a couple of nice meals. So I did rabbit, big fat 2 kilogram worth of rabbit, so that was awesome. And yeah, so I love doing all that kind of stuff. So cooking I actually really enjoy as a side hobby. If anyone's, I mean, sometimes I share pictures in an investment Discord group. But yeah, love cooking basically. So that was where I wanted to do. So I guess to start with, this is an overview. But next up, I want to talk about what I'm going to be doing moving forward to kind of help rediscover my motivation. All right, so ultimately, like I know I'm a very proud man, and part of the reason, really the main reason why I make investment videos, I don't expect to make any money or at least very minimal money from YouTube anytime soon. Really, the reason why I make videos is to keep myself focused because there would be nothing worse to me than coming to you guys who are watching this video and the public in general and basically saying, yeah, I've not fulfilled my objectives, right? And I mean, the whole point of my channel isn't just meant to be about wealth building, it is meant to be about betterment, right? And sure, part of that betterment comes through wealth building, but some of it also comes from health, from being a better father or a better husband or just being a better person. And, like pride is one of those vices that can certainly become destructive, right? Pride can often lead to sort of expectation or contempt, even at a worst thing. Pride for me, though, over the last sort of decade, 15 years, has actually been hugely useful because I've been able to channel it into making myself better. I mean, if you could see where I started, like on an estate, to where I am now, like there's a reason why I'm quite prideful about that. Like I think I've basically made it, but it's also kind of got to the point where I'm starting to wonder if, like, where I've become complacent. It's like, okay, I've reached a certain level, I've got a reasonable standard of life, certainly more than I ever would have dreamt, 20 years ago. But also, I feel like I need to channel it again and like revisit um, and become better, right? Again, I think I've kind of plateaued, if I'm honest with myself, over the last year or two, and I think I kind of need to give myself a kick up the arse. So I want to kind of, in a similar way to the way that I'm doing weekly videos, I want to make a commitment with this that I'm going to stand by and use that pride positively, effectively. So I'm going to make these commitments and I want you guys to keep me honest. I'm going to try and keep myself honest as well. And we're going to start with this. So I'm going to make a weekly video. My investment videos typically come out Friday to Sunday. I'll try and get that more consistent, by the way. That's not a commitment, but this is a commitment. So once a week, and this is week one, on a video Tuesday to Thursday about how these goals are going, right? So expect another video from me in a week's time talking about, how my goals are going. And just things like how whether I'm eating well, what my weight is, did I play some poker, did I play some chess, etc., etc. Right? Just to talk about it and kind of again make myself more accountable for the things I want to achieve. Have at least one quality family time a week, and again I think for this is quite specific, right? It's similar to when we talk about quality food. It's very easy to sort of like sit on the sofa with your daughter or your wife and watch Netflix, watch YouTube, etc. Right? That's not really quality time. Like, and to be fair, like I don't think I'm bad here. I just want to make sure that it doesn't slip. So like last Saturday, for example, not only did me and my daughter go to Borough Market, but actually in the afternoon when it was mainly my wife's shift, we actually took my daughter swimming for the first time. So that was kind of exciting. And that to me is quality time, right? It's doing something a bit different, doing something that one of you, either me or them, decide to do. And my wife really wanted to go swimming, and I think it's cool. I'm not much of a swimmer, to be honest with you. I barely float, but my wife's very good at it, and it's something it's a good life skill to have, I guess. But likewise, Borough Market was more for me, and in a way for my daughter as well. So I'd like to make sure that maybe on a Saturday or Sunday we just do something. So my wife's got a birthday actually this Friday, so we're going to be doing something. But mostly I'm just going to be doing whatever she wants to do. So yeah, I think that's important. Also, as well, like for me, on the next point here, reach out to a family, friend, or colleague once a week. Like this might, like if you're a social butterfly, this to you might sound like a bit of a joke commitment because it comes to you very naturally. I'm not really much of a people person. Like I can go back to like when I was 5 years old and read report cards that my late mum kept naturally. And it says like Liam has a very small group of friends. Liam is very select with who he hangs around with, right? Literally every school year, that's what it says. And even today, I can count my friends on one hand. And even like, there are some colleagues who, I'll still email periodically, but it's something that I let slip. And especially now my mum passed away, like me and my sisters just hardly ever talk. Although a month ago, again, as part of this sort of reassessing what was missing with my motivation, I did actually spend the weekend in Farnborough, where I was born and grew up, and where my sisters, two of my three sisters, still live. So I just want to make sure that I'm basically not letting relationships go stale, and really just kind of try and cultivate it a little bit. So yeah, so this is something I'm going to be working on. I know for some people here this would seem like the easiest thing ever, but I'm an introvert. COVID has given me an opportunity to be an introvert. And I actually think it can be, like, for me at least, it can become quite dangerous where I almost just don't want to leave the house and don't really want to talk to people. And I'm pretty sure that's not good for me. Even, if you're naturally introverted, you need some friends, some connections, etc. So again, I want to keep myself honest here and make sure I do it so that I don't have to come to you guys and say, oh yeah, well, I haven't done it. Get a new job by Christmas. So again, I mean, I've already spoken about it. Literally this week, I actually handed in my notice and updated my CV, started to speak to recruiters. We'll see how it goes. I'm keeping a very open mind in terms of like next jobs, where I am, where I'm going to be situated, etc., etc. Obviously, I won't be changing entirely. I'm not going to become a sommelier, not least because they start on like 15 to 20 grand as a salary, and that would not pay the bills. But I am kind of thinking about. Well, I definitely need to change in job anyway. But outside of that, I'm pretty open-minded in terms of what that looks like exactly. So yeah, but that I hope to get that by Christmas. Certainly, I've had a few introductory calls and it seems positive, but we'll see. I also want to start playing poker again. I think here a more realistic target is twice a month. The thing is, like when I used to play a bit more, even just a few years ago, like before daughter came along, it was fairly easy for me to basically play like unsocial hours, knacker myself out for a day. But now, like having a mere 3-year-old is really tiring. Like we don't have a familial network nearby. It's not like we can offload them to grandparents. So actually, it's just like it destroys my weekend. Just going like on Friday night means that I have to recover Saturday day, and then my wife wants to hand off the daughter Saturday night so she can have a rest. Then I look after the daughter, and by the time we're done, it's like I'm finally feel a bit rested by Sunday, but the whole weekend is just kind of feels like it's gone. So I think like twice a week and maybe more sensible hours. Now that the London Underground tube is also running 24 hours again, that also helps because I don't drive. So when the tubes are working 24 hours, it's very easy for me to get to and from casinos. All of them are on major tube net lines, and I live like 3 minutes away from a major tube network station. So that was very easy. But yet again, until very recently, that wasn't the situation. So it was almost like I was playing in casinos and then like forcing myself to either leave before the last train goes or stay until like 5:30 in the morning when they were starting up again. Which again, sometimes you get to like 2, 3 o'clock and you just feel like it's time to leave. So I'd like to sort of target this as twice a month, like every other weekend. Also, as well, like I found a fairly nice local club that plays reasonable sized poker tournaments. So I'm going to try at that again. Like poker tournaments, they have in a way more variance because like if you win, you can 20x your starting stack, but you're only going to cash 20% of the time. So it's different to like cash games where you can potentially lose many hundreds or even thousands depending on your stake. But also you could win very small, right? You might just win like 20 quid. But at the same time, it's like much lower stakes than I'm used to playing, and I'm just going to be friendly, reintroduce myself. And I first got into poker playing profitably 15 years ago in tournaments. So that was really what I started on. So we'll see how that goes anyway. I think that's going to be how I start things, play some tournaments, and go from there. And yeah, I guess lastly, cook a decent meal from scratch each week. So again, this is just to keep me honest, I suppose. But yeah, I like I said, I don't think I need too much motivation here. I really enjoy cooking still. Whenever I have like time or I'm a bit stressed or I need to think, I like to cook. And so I think that's a relatively easy one. But again, I want to make sure that we're cooking consistently, that's a major part, especially because, like I say, my little one has expressed a real interest in cooking and eating. And, you know, she loves to help in the kitchen, although sometimes that helps a bit help. But you know, it's something I really want to encourage, and we'll go from there, right? Hopefully one day I'll end up with like a little sous chef who's genuinely useful in the kitchen, rather than just being like an adorable little distraction. So yeah, I think they're going to be my new commitments. The main one, of course, is you're going to get a second weekly video from me, just seeing how we're doing, and we're going to build on that. So I guess I just wanted to do this video to talk about it. It feels important to get it out there. Explain the situation, I guess, but mainly so I can double down, refocus, whatever the right wording is, but essentially to find that motivation that made me like a bit more committed in my late 20s and early 30s, as well as the fact like keep myself honest with these, because I think ultimately by doing these commitments and what we've already spoken about, it'll help me feel better. So that's ultimately it. So hopefully this is a more personal video than maybe sometimes, but again, I feel like it's important. It is technically in the theme of the channel, even though I've not really been doing very many of these videos, but let's change that. So I guess thank you very much for listening, everybody. If you have any questions, you feel the same, any advice, all welcome below. Otherwise though, yeah, thank you very much, everyone. I've been the Boss Hog, and good luck with your investing, and indeed your Betterment. Bye for now.